Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Crossroads. This is the show for and about environmental justice and those who fight the fight with skin as melanated as the days are long. Knowledge is power, and we are breaking down stereotypes one episode at a time. So today I am in the studio with two very special guests, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but they represent the Princeton Blairstown Center in New Jersey, and I'm joined by Pam and Bailey. Thank you all so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me.
So who wants to go first and introduce themselves? Bailey, I feel like you should go first.
Okay. My name is Bailey Burgess Simmons. I am a student at Foundation Collegiate Academy in Trenton, New Jersey, and I am 17 years old, and I was formerly an LIT student at the Princeton Blairstown Center.
Awesome. And I'm Pam Gregory. I'm the president and CEO of the Princeton Blairstown Center. And we're a 112-year-old not-for-profit organization that is founded on the principles of empowering young people, predominantly from under-resourced communities, through experiential, environmental, and adventure-based education.
That's a mouthful. So Giving Flowers is the segment of the show where we give some kudos, some props to folks either in our lives personally or folks that we admire that have given us the inspiration to do the things that we're doing. So I will start as an example. So actually the person that I want to give some flowers to today is my mother. As I was mentioning to Pam earlier, my mother is a lifelong educator. She has dedicated her life to the enrichment and the education of children. She worked with special needs children for the majority of my upbringing and my young life. And now, even though she is long since retired, she is still doing the work of a school of teachers working with students after their school programs are over with. So that's who I want to give some flowers to today. Who's next?
I'll go next. I would like to give flowers to my mother as well for being the person that raised me and the person that always encourages me to speak my mind and to be my very best self, and who is much of the reason why I'm where I am today.
Awesome.
And I would like to give some flowers to the late Dr. Frank Broderick. He worked at the Princeton Summer Camp, which is who we were when we started many years ago. And he also was the chairman of the Daily Princetonian, which is the university's student newspaper. And at the time when he was involved with us, Princeton was the last major academic institution north of the Mason-Dixon line that did not admit Black students. And he had a deep sense of social justice. He waged a tireless campaign through his work at the Princetonian, or the Prince as it was called. He was not successful, but he graduated. He went away to World War II, where he served as a pilot. He came back as a grad student to Princeton University, and he resumed his campaign for integration. And he was able to get the staff at Princeton, the faculty at Princeton, to agree to allow the Princeton Summer Camp to have young Black students from the Witherspoon-Jackson area of Princeton come to the camp in 1946. And we believe that it quite possibly was one of the first opportunities for Black children to go to summer camps in the United States.
That's really interesting. So I want to shift a little bit and talk about where the both of you, your origin stories. And because we were, Pam and I were talking a little bit before, and Bailey, obviously, I read your speech and I know a little bit about you and your background and the community that you came from. But I want to start with you and just kind of ask you to talk a little bit more about your community, and how you grew up, what the circumstances under which you grew up, and also, if you while you're telling the story, if there's any kind of environmental burden that you saw while you were growing up, to talk a little bit about that too.
So I live in the city of Trenton. I'm actually originally from the town of Cranberry, New Jersey. I lived there for I think up until I was in the 4th grade. And then my mother's side of the family is from the Bahamas, so my 5th grade year I moved there. and I stayed until the summer before my 7th grade year, and then I came back to New Jersey and lived in Trenton, and I've been here since then. It was really great to live in these different areas to see that, there wasn't just Trenton, to see what other places are like. Growing up, I've seen a lot in Trenton. I see a lot of poverty. I see, environmentally, it's not the best. It's a city, so like other, you have a lot of pollution, but you see a lot in Trenton, with the people, with facilities. You see it in school systems. You see it just driving with the abandoned houses, and the amount of people are just living who are living a impoverished life.
Pam?
Yep, I grew up in Baton Rouge and New Orleans, Louisiana. And as I was mentioning to you earlier, it's really the cancer corridor of our country. Growing up, part of the time in Baton Rouge, we lived in a semi-rural area next to an electrical transmission plant.
Ooh.
I also know that my grandfather was one of maybe 9 kids, and every single person in his family died from cancer.
Wow.
So that's not something I fully understood until I was an adult, though. As we all likely know, Louisiana, it has the oil and gas industry, lots of, pollution up and down the Mississippi River area. And then, of course, it's also a place where there's an awful lot of poverty. And oftentimes, communities who live in poverty have disproportionately been affected by their environments. And I felt very fortunate as a young person. I had the opportunity to go to Girl Scout camp, and I felt like it really changed my view about the environment and developed a deep love of sort of all the skills that you can get out of that. And I often attribute going away to camp in developing skills of resilience and independence and leadership and working with diverse kinds of people as the impetus to move thousands of miles away from home and end up in New York City eventually.
And Bailey, can you talk about, your experience going to PBC? Kind of like what Pam was saying about going to Girl Scouts and the lessons that she learned. What were some of the things that when you set foot on PBC's grounds, what was your feeling? And then also, like, what were some things that you really learned and took away from the program?
I originally went to PBC. I think my first time I was in 7th grade was when I first came back. And I went from being in the city to being in the woods. And I guess it was kind of like culture shock at first.
Yeah.
It was just so different, and it was so open. And I was kind of nervous by the fact that there was no fence between the cabins and the woods, and that like deer and any animals were just walking and flying around, and the bats were out at night. It was definitely different for me, but being there and just over the years, just understanding the importance of cleaning up after yourself and looking out for your environment, I've definitely grown to appreciate it more. And just to see how different it was when it's really only, I think, like a 2-hour ride from Trenton to PBC, just to see how different it was. It was really, it weighed on me. Something I will never forget, the experiences I've had at PBC, being up close with so many different animals. It's memories that I will always hold on to, and that I would want other people to get to experience as well, especially inner city children who don't get to see the stars at nighttime and don't get to see foxes and bears and deer running around in your backyard.
Yeah. And Pam, as the CEO of this program, like what drew you to it? What made you want to come to the center and stay?
Well, the mission, first of all. As I shared with you, going outside, being outside made a huge difference in my life. And so the opportunity to make the experience available to kids from all communities has been super important to me. In addition, PBC has beautiful facilities that have been well cared for. A lot of times, a site gets built, when it as it ages, it doesn't always age so beautifully, but I think it's incredibly well cared for. And I think we also have a board of trustees that's incredibly committed to our mission, and I found them really inspiring and motivating to work with.
And Bailey, for the leadership and training program, can you describe that program and then describe your experience in it?
So the leadership and training program is different from the Summer Bridge program in the sense that students, especially students from minority communities and inner city communities, they come to PBC. For the first half of the program, you come for 3 weeks during the summertime, and for the second half, you come for 6 weeks during the summertime. But within those weeks, for the first half, you're kind of learning the grounds. You're learning basic things like how to work with groups, and you learn to work within your own group. So I think my first group, there was 11 of us, and we did all the group activities and we solved problems together, we worked together, and we learned to become leaders within our own group and learned what roles we had in our group to contribute to our own success. We learned that, and then when we came back for the second time around, we split up a little bit, and this time we got to use what we learned beforehand with other groups. So for example, my first time around, we did a lot of group activities that would help us to learn our leadership styles, and I learned my leadership style, and I learned how I learned my struggles and my weaknesses and my strengths, and I learned how to apply those to problems that we faced or adventure course activities that we did. And with that, I was able to go and become a junior facilitator in my 6-week summer. So the next summer, I was able to become a junior facilitator, which would mean I would be going with other Summer Bridge facilitators during the summertime and leading activities with groups of students who came to the campgrounds. So I would take what I learned from beforehand and apply that to now helping other children solve problems and work together.
So what's your leadership style?
I have a more dominant leadership style, and I guess that was kind of a conflict with my small group because I wanted to take over and lead things. But then I guess learning my style and learning that I'm more of a kind of like a dominant leadership style. I'm on you. I want to make sure things are a certain way, and that you're following these specific guidelines like my way. I kind of learned how to step back and how to be okay with stepping back and kind of just letting people work it out and leading rather than, pushing them in the direction I want them to go into.
Oh, girl.
And I definitely learned to be patient. Patience was something I came in knowing I had to work on and knowing that it would be a struggle when trying to lead a group of younger individuals.
Yeah.
And by the end of the summer, I was definitely more patient. And by the next summer, I was able to spend hours on adventure course activities waiting for groups to work together and figure it out, because I remember my first round as an LIT, we did, what was the activity? It was an activity, I can't remember the name, it fell from my head, but
that's okay.
It's you put down like tiles, and basically you have to get your whole group across a certain, do you know the?
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you have to, everybody has to get across. You can't leave anyone behind. And you have to communicate to put the tiles down so that everyone can get across. Yeah.
And you can't leave the tile on the ground, and you can't step off the tile. It was insane. And I remember my group, it was like our first day doing it, and we couldn't do it. And we were out there for 3 hours, and I was so frustrated because I was like, we are not working together. I'm trying to tell you guys how to do it. You're not listening to me, even though my way wasn't even working. And I just remember being frustrated that we could not get it done in a timely manner. And by the end of the summer, we got it done. It still wasn't very fast, but I wasn't so frustrated by the fact that it was taking us so long. I was more patient, and I trusted the process, and I let people put their input in, and I was okay with my decision or my strategy wasn't working, and we worked it out, and I was able to do that same activity the summer afterwards with students, and we did it successfully. And it took them a long time, but I led them. I didn't give them the cheat codes, and I was actually very proud that I was able to do that.
That's great. And so what you're talking about is that you were able to lead by example because you knew what it took, because you had to go through the process. And that's, and Pam, bringing you into this conversation too. I mean, as a leader of this organization, you also have to lead by example. And one of the things that is very strong on the website is the relying on social emotional learning. Can you talk a little bit more about what that is and how you've seen it in action at PBC?
Absolutely. The definition we use comes from CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. But it's basically a process through which young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for other people, and establish and maintain positive relationships that include making responsible decisions. And SEL is really important because it's the tools that each of us use in our daily lives through our social interactions, and to manage our daily emotional responses. And that can include things like social awareness, setting goals, taking responsibility for yourself, maintaining healthy relationships, and practicing self-care. And I like to think that social emotional learning, or SEL as it's known, is closely linked to emotional intelligence and or EQ. And EQ is 3 times more likely a predictor of success than IQ. And I think the final reason that we should all care about social emotional learning is that if you attend a program that's evidence-based, young people will score 13 points higher academically, have a 6% higher chance of graduating from high school, and they're 11% more likely to go on to college. So your how you feel, right, and how you interact with others and your sense of belonging is all impacted by SEL.
And Bailey, you've already shown and explained that you've been able to, to have more empathy for fellow students, program members, just because of your experience. What are some of the other, like social skills or soft skills, as we call them, like your communication style? How did that change as you went through the program?
With the program, I was definitely able to read the room better. It was something I struggled with my freshman year, I believe, in school. And that summer, because I did my first round of the program the summer after my freshman year, I was definitely able to do it better. So like when we're doing activities, I was able to see who was struggling specifically. I was able to figure out ways to include them in activities, and just have a better understanding of how the people around me were feeling and how my actions would impact whether or not they felt better at the end of our activities. Okay. I was definitely able to communicate better and more effectively. So not just, barking orders, but maybe taking the time to make sure that my peers are understanding what I'm saying. That way they can, better see my point of view. And definitely able to keep better relationships, because when you're living with someone in a cabin for 6 weeks, it's just not gonna, it's not going to be a great environment if you guys aren't getting along.
Nope.
Or have, a good relationship. So I definitely was able to create great relationships with my peers, the other LITs. And even some of the summer staff. I mean, to this day, the last time I was there at PBC was last summer. I left in August, but since then, I still talk to some of the LITs every day, and even some of the summer staff who I didn't live in cabins with, who I just worked alongside. I still talk to them, and sometimes we get on Zoom calls and we have conversations, and I still have managed to maintain a very good relationship with the people that I was there with at PBC.
That's excellent. And another great thing about PBC is that it's classified in the state of New Jersey as a sustainable program. So Pam, talk to me about, what are some of the sustainable practices that that PBC has implemented, and maybe some of the ones that you're the most proud of?
Sure. I like to think that sustainability is woven into everything that we do at PBC. Bailey mentioned earlier, we teach everyone who comes there a practice called restoration, which is to learn to take care of the physical world around them in the dining room, in their cabins, while hiking or boating, on trails, etc., as well as equipment. We do other things with the young people who come there, and as part of our own practices, we have an organic garden, and we compost the food from our dining room in that garden, and we teach young people about that. Young people work in the garden and learn about the garden and how it relates to issues of, we study issues of food deserts and environmental justice, and they harvest vegetables that are then served in the dining room, particularly on the salad bar. During our 5-day, 4-night summer bridge program that Bailey referenced, young people engage in an hour of STEM activities and an hour of STEAM activities that could involve learning about our hydrogenerator, our solar panels, our geothermal system, our pollinator garden, or our electronic vehicle charging station. And I would just say that what I feel most proud of is that long before I got here, there was a deep commitment to alternative energy and sustainability. Though they were replaced not by me but by another leader, originally our bathhouses were solar powered. So people were thinking about this back in the 70s. There was some type of a wind turbine that was there previously. And what I feel most proud of is we just redid a building there, a major renovation of a lodge called Danielson Lodge. And our board and staff made the choice together to put in geothermal energy, a loop that runs through the lake. And
Nice.
it's just really cool and awesome, and has made the building more usable in all different seasons.
That's awesome. And Bailey, what was at least like one or two sustainable practices that you learned at PBC that you've been able to apply in your own life?
That's a great question. I definitely the restoration. That has is actually something that I practice home, and I remember coming back from PBC, and it being something that my mom was like, "What are you doing?" Because before that, like I didn't really care too much, but since then I have definitely practiced it, and I have my whole family doing it now. Like once you leave a room, we're gonna do restoration as a group. We're gonna clean it and make sure it's in the same condition that we left it
Nice.
in. And composting as well. We do it. We originally were more consistent. It's something that my family is not as consistent. I'm consistent, but trying to get my whole family has definitely been a struggle. But definitely like things that are biodegradable, keep them and reuse them. And there's a lady who in my community, she has a city garden, and she grows flowers, and she grows like tomatoes and carrots. She grows a lot of vegetables and beautiful flowers that you can see when you ride by. So I give her all of my compost, and she uses it in her soil because she
Nice.
composts as well. And it really is rewarding to go and drive by that garden and see it, and see how it's flourishing, and know that all you did was keep your garbage.
Right. And picking up on what you said about, the challenges that you're facing with your family, can you talk a little bit more about that? Because that's relatable content. A lot of folks have challenges not only with themselves, but getting their families or, their members of their community on board. So what are some of the challenges that your family shows, or what are some things that are showing up for you guys?
I think the division or the difference is them not having been there, being at PBC and practicing, keeping your compost and going in the garden. Because I remember I wasn't even there for the summer bridge program. I came back for woodcutters. during the fall, and we cleaned out the entire garden, and put down hay so that the soil will be good for the season coming up to plant. And I've been there over the summer where we've went in there and we've picked cucumbers and tomatoes, and I've been there to dig up potatoes. And as many times as I've been there, I've always worked in that garden, and I've always seen just how much it flourished in the growth. And I knew, because of the education I received and because of taking the STEM classes or being present during the STEM classes with other students, I've learned just how much those small actions, like keeping your banana peel, like just how much they would impact us. Because a lot of the food, was coming from that garden. So the food that we were eating for our dinners was coming from that garden. And just knowing that all of this was possible because of that composting, it was something I wanted to continue and practice when I came home. And I think the reason my family don't understand it as much is because they weren't there to see just how effective it can be and just how important it is really for our environment and just how sustainable it is. Because you're always going to have food and you're always going to have garbage, and why waste it when it can go towards creating more in the future?
Yes. And I think we're definitely in the crossroads where we're bringing all of these things together. And what I really hear you saying, Bailey, and Pam too, is that what is beautiful about PBC is the fact that you're giving people access to knowledge, access to experience. And that is one of the barriers that a lot of folks have, is that they don't have this prior knowledge or information. So you're, as someone who has that, Bailey, you're coming to them like, hey, don't throw those banana peels in the garbage. Let's put them in the dirt. And they're like, what? And you have to explain it to them. And even when you do, it's not fully clicking. But that's the beauty of, as my mother said, that's the beauty of exposure. That's the one thing that when you get exposed to certain things, it changes how you do them. It changes, your approach. So now that we're all here in the crossroads, Bailey, I want to again ask you about another aspect of the LIT program, which was financial literacy. You mentioned that in your speech that you gave, you mentioned that that's what you learned about. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that?
So my first round as an LIT student, we had financial literacy classes. I think it was every other day, I believe, and we would spend 2 hours learning about the importance of managing your money. And at the end of the LIT program, we were giving a stipend, and they just wanted to make sure that we wouldn't make good use of it. Right. And I go to a charter school, Foundation Collegiate Academy, and my sophomore year we were given financial literacy classes, but I can't say the same for a lot of other students. It was a class that just began. There are a lot of students in the city of Trenton who go to the public schools who do not receive that education, and it's very important. It's great to be able to say that you passed your calc class, but a lot of that stuff you're not going to apply to real life. But right. Financial literacy is something that you're always going to need to know. And I know a lot of people who have not sat down to learn how to fill out a tax form or do their tax returns. I know a lot of people who don't know the importance of a savings account, who think it's okay, who don't understand interest. They don't understand what it means to take out a loan, because they say, if I want to buy a house, I can just take out a loan, but they don't understand how you're going to end up paying back way more than you took out. They don't understand a lot of that. And it was a great experience going to PBC and learning about that, because I learned about that my freshman year, the summer before my sophomore year. So it also prepared me going into my sophomore year already having a head start, and already knowing about financial literacy and knowing what to expect in the class. Mm-hmm. And I'd even say it definitely helped me to manage the money that I received from the program, because it wasn't spent all in one sitting. It wasn't, I put it in my savings account and I've seen it grow. Mm-hmm. So I can definitely say that it was very important. And to this day, I still think it's very important for students to know about financial literacy. And it's something that should definitely be a graduation requirement, so that, students aren't leaving and going out into the world with no knowledge of the importance of financial literacy. And I definitely appreciate Princeton Blairstown for giving me the opportunity. and educating me, because even some of the LITs in my program hadn't been educated. And I was lucky to go to a school where I would be, but a lot of people didn't. So I think it's great that they were doing that.
Yes. And going back to you, Pam, because obviously all the things that I'm hearing really shows that PBC under your leadership, even previous leadership, that the program is really excelling and providing a really great service to students. So what do you see as some things, what do you see for the future? Where do you want to take the program next? What are maybe some future things that that you're planning on doing?
Well, we just completed a new 3-year strategic plan, and I'm really proud of it because I think that we are going to integrate our Summer Bridge curriculum a little better than we did before. So there was always an hour of literacy, an hour of STEM, an hour of project-based learning, but they didn't all talk to each other. And so now the literacy and STEM classes are going to focus on environmental justice and food justice and civic engagement through the service learning component of it. And so the point is not just to give kids information, but to really motivate them to go back to their communities of Newark, Trenton, and Camden and engage in helping to solve the environmental issues in their communities. And so we're excited about that. We've also developed a new comprehensive environmental education curriculum that aligns with state standards to attract new groups to the center during the non-summer months. So I think given our commitment to sustainability and to communities of color and low-income communities, we are more than ever realizing that we have the capacity to equip, motivate, expose, and empower students to go out and demand clean air, clean water, fresh, healthy foods, and access to the outdoors.
Yes. And Bailey, you are 17, so this means you're coming into your senior year of high school, right? All right. So you got a lot of things happening. Obviously we don't really know, or maybe you do, about how your school's going to school's going to go for the next year, your final year. But thinking about your future, what do you see for yourself? What are some things that you're looking forward to doing with all the things that you've learned at PBC, all the things that you've learned just as your own lived experience? What do you see next for yourself?
So next year, obviously, is my senior year. I'm looking forward to my soccer season, my final soccer season. I'm captain. I was captain this year.
Nice.
I'm captain next year. So I'm excited to take everything I learned about leadership and apply that to my team and just to our well-being, just because, I feel like it's so important for teams to have great relationships and to do team building activities and to genuinely care and like each other. I feel like the sport is fun and it's exciting, but that sense of team is way more important. So even this year I applied some of the activities I knew from PBC to our practices, and we did them to get to know each other and to function better as a team. And I plan on doing that again this year, especially for our incoming freshmen who are joining the team. And I am also looking forward to graduating high school, of course, and going on to college. I am one thing that I definitely loved PBC for was the networking and getting to know new people. Because a lot of the LITs were, I think, my first round, there's only one other person from Trenton. So I met people from New York, I met people from DC, I met people from Newark, I met a whole bunch of people, and then the second time around it was even more, with the fact that I was a phase 2 LIT and there were still phase 1s coming in. And on top of that, the Summer Bridge facilitators. I met a lot of people, and they all have connections in different parts of the United States, and I still talk to them, and I can definitely say that they have, taught me things. They all came with a different background and different understanding of life and from different walks of life. And being and living with them for 6 weeks at a time, really, I learned a lot from the people around me. And it wasn't, it was it wasn't academic, it was life things that you should know. And I definitely appreciate PBC, and just based on everything that happened within those 6 weeks, I'm so excited to go to college and go to a campus in a different city and meet all these new people from all these different walks of life and learn, even more just from the people around me.
So we're coming close to the end of the show, and I just want to first of all thank both of you for taking the time to be with me today. Are there any First, do you have any personal shout outs that you want to give? Are there things that you're working on that you want to promote? Now is the time. Pam, I'm looking to you first.
First I want to shout out Bailey for getting up
Yes.
on a Saturday morning. If
my
I was a
God.
student, you probably couldn't get me up this early. So
Nope.
thank you, Bailey. And to you, Rashida, for the opportunity to talk about the work that we're doing. Because of COVID-19, for the first time since World War II, the Princeton Blairstown Center will not be running a summer program, which is really, or an in-person summer program, which is really sad and really disappointing for kids who've been stuck learning on computers or Chromebooks for the past 3 months. But what we will be doing is we'll be holding a virtual summer bridge program with 2 of our partners in Trenton. And so I'll just say that we're looking forward to providing a couple of hours of synchronous work with kids from really deserving communities in Trenton. And we're also going to be running a family camp program for just 5 sets of families who will be coming to the Princeton Blairstown Center and living, in their own pod and eating meals outside. So we're using the campus, which is a beautiful resource, in a different way this summer.
Bailey.
So I definitely like to give a shout out to you for allowing me to come on to the show and speak a little bit about my personal experience with PBC, because I think it's something very important to share. Because, it's one thing to hear about it from adults, but to hear about it from your peer, I think it would, get more children to go and experience it for themselves. And I'd actually like to shout out a program that I'm in. It's called the Give Something Back Foundation. It's a scholarship foundation, and it's for incoming freshmen. And depending on what state you live in, you apply. If you get it, you get a full-ride scholarship to their partner colleges in the state. And a lot of people don't know about it. And it truly is a gift from God, and I would really like to share that with other people who will have the opportunity to receive that scholarship their freshman year of their freshman year of high school.
Yes.
And to have that chance to be you get mentorship throughout the entire 4 years, someone that you can talk to. You go on yearly scholar summits. When you go, you visit, you spend a week at the college. No, I'm lying. You spend, I think, 2 or 3 days at the college, one of their partner colleges, and you can go I think since I've been in the program, we've spent a week at Rowan and a week at St. Peter's University. And we go there and we get to, live on the campus and experience the campus and take tours and, ask questions and get to know the school. And it's a great program, and you really are in touch with even the big bosses, the people who are running the program. You can still text them on a Saturday to talk about anything, and your concerns about college. And they're really great with preparing you for college. And they give you a real village of people that you can go to and talk to if you need them. And I think it's a great program for students, especially minority students who might otherwise not have access to those resources.
Right. And this is Giving Something Back Foundation?
It's called the Give Something Back Foundation, yes.
All right. And please send me the links so I can promote them, because that's an excellent opportunity.
Absolutely.
I also was enriched in my middle school and high school years by being able to go to Mary Washington University in Virginia and stay there for a week and learn and get SAT prep support, all the things that you need as a high school student to go on and be successful in your college and in your future. So, and then again, teaching about the social skills, the importance of community and also communication and group activities. Even though low-key I do not like group activities all that much, I recognize their importance, because Bailey is like low-key me and likes to be in charge and
Yes.
and direct traffic. I hear it. I feel you. I felt it. So I understand. Don't totally let that candle go out. Just, maybe just cover it up a little bit.
A little
Because
bit, yeah.
just a little bit. But thank you both so much for being here with me today. I really appreciate it. And, you know, I hope, Bailey, I'm speaking life into you. I know that you're going to be successful in your future, and I cannot wait to see all the great things that you've done or that you're going to do. And Pam, speaking over you two, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing in New Jersey, bringing students to your facility and letting them learn and expand. It's important. So I just wanted to, again, thank you both so very much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having us both and for the opportunity to share our work. And if people are interested, I hope they'll go to our website, learn more about us, and make a donation so young people like Bailey can have these kinds of opportunities and others.
Yes, donate. All the links and all the information I will provide in the show notes and on social media. So please, if you're interested in PBC, you know, please take advantage of all that they have to offer. And we will see you again at the Crossroads.